How should the Springboks line up against Wales? This is a very interesting test match because it falls outside of the international window and is on the same day as the URC final, meaning that players who play in the URC semi-final and final will not be able to play against Wales, as well as players playing over in Europe, which means players like Siya Kolisi, Handré Pollard, Jasper Visser, who's now also been suspended for 8 games, will not be able to play against Wales. So as it stands, the Bulls and the Stormers have a massive chance of making the semi-final, so we're not going to include them in the team against Wales, meaning we can only select players from the Lions, the Sharks, and Japan-based players. So with that said, please make sure you absolutely mur that subscribe button. We're trying to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Leave this video a like and drop your opinions down in the comments to what your lineup would look like. So let's start this off. Starting in the front row, number 1, obviously we would normally go Steven Kitsoff, but he's now injured. And as you're going to see, we are lacking a little bit of depth in the prop and hooker positions. But for number 1, we're going to go with Oxen Cho, who's been playing for the Sharks this season. He's been playing phenomenally for the Sharks, and I do think he's definitely our best prop that is eligible to play at the moment. Moving on into that hooker position, we can go for either Bongi Mbonambe, who plays his rugby for the Sharks, or we can go for Malcolm Marx, who plays his rugby over in Japan. And I think after Malcolm Marx got injured in the World Cup, I do think Rassie Erasmus will be eager to get him onto the pitch, playing a lot of minutes, especially in the build-up to that Island Test series coming up. So for me, I'm going to start Malcolm Marx. Then finishing off the front rowers, normally it'd be Frans Malherbe. He plays for the Stormers. Trevor Nyakane plays for Racing 92 in France. Luckily, we've got a very, very good prop in the form of Vincent Koch, who plays for the Sharks. Also been having an incredible season, is playing in the final tomorrow with Bongi Mbonambe in the Challenge Cup final. So the front row looks very, very good. Let's move over into the locks. Now locks as well, we're quite blessed with the 2 starting locks, but you'll see we don't really have that much depth because of all these restrictions that have been put on this test match and who Rassie Erasmus and the Springboks can pick. So number 4, very, very simple. Eben Etzebeth has to go in at number 4. I wouldn't be surprised if Eben even captains this game. Number 5, Franco Mostert, been playing his rugby over in Japan, but that is a very, very good lock pairing that I definitely think is going to take the field against Wales. And then we move over into the loose forwards, which is a little bit more complicated because you have to take into account the depth and who comes off the bench for this Wales game, who can play 6, 7, and 8, who's our utility forwards that can maybe slot into lock. So it does get a little bit complicated. Starting with that number 6 position, obviously Siya Kolisi plays his rugby for Racing 92, so he will not be eligible. Another player who plays for the Lions that could potentially hop in is JC Pretorius, who's been having a great season so far. I just don't think he's there yet. So for me, at number 6, I'm going to go for Kwagga Smith, just because he is quite he provides a lot of utility in that forward pack. He can play 6, he can play 7, he can play 8, he can play wing if we need him to play wing. In that number 7 jersey, we have to go for Pieter-Steph du Toit, who's been playing his rugby over in Japan. He is just probably one of the best forwards in the world at the moment, and he also provides the Springboks with that utility to either play 6, 7, or he can play lock. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Pieter-Steph go from 7 to lock. They replace Franco Mostert with someone off the bench. So he just gives us that little bit of extra utility in that forward pack. Then number 8. Now this is one of the positions where we have the most depth, but with the most players that aren't going to be able to play against Wales. So Jasper Visser plays for the Leicester Tigers. He will not be able to play. He's also just been given an 8-game ban, so he's not going to be able to play against Ireland or the Rugby Championship, which is not ideal at all. But it gives players like Ivan Roos a chance to play in those big test matches against Ireland and the Rugby Championship. But Ivan Roos plays with the Stormers, can't make the team. Cameron Hanekom, a youngster in the Bulls who's also been having a phenomenal breakthrough season, won't be able to play because the Bulls will potentially play in the semis or the final of the URC. Pelo Gumede has also had a very, very good season, plays for the Bulls, won't be able to play, which then leaves us with 2 interesting options from the Sharks and from the Lions, Pepsi Buthelezi and Frankie Horn. Now, Frankie Horn captains the Lions and has been having a good season, but for me, I just think Pepsi Buthelezi is in better form. He's been playing the better rugby for a longer period of time, and I would love to see Pepsi Buthelezi run out in that number 8 jersey, and I think he probably will, just given the fact that the Stormers and Bulls players can't play. So for me, at 8, I'm going to put Pepsi Buthelezi in there. We then move over into the back line. Now, for the back line, there's some very, very easy positions to sort of hand out, and there aren't very easy positions to hand out. In the number 9 jersey, it's probably the most competitive jersey in the Springboks side at the moment. Faf, who's been playing over in Japan, is eligible to play. Morne van den Berg, who's been having a great season for the Lions, can play. Sinelo Nohamba, who also plays for the Lions, can play. Jaden Hendrickse, who plays for the Sharks, but he is a little bit injured at the moment, so I'm not too sure how that injury is going. Grant Williams from the Sharks as well. So those are the players that can play. That's not even the Bulls, Stormers, or overseas-based players like Kobus Reinach isn't even on this list. But for me, against Wales, I do think Rassie Erasmus, he needs to experiment with this position, because obviously we know what Faf gives us, but I don't think he's going to start Faf. For me personally, I would give Sinelo Nohamba a chance in that number 9 jersey. Also provides utility, can play 9 or 10, and you'll see with my bench selections that Sinelo Nohamba might play a vital role in sort of that utility. So I would start Sinelo Nohamba. Moving on into that number 10 position, again, you can play Nohamba, you can play Jordan Hendrickse, you can play Sia Masuku. Obviously, we don't have Pollard or Lebok because Lebok plays for the Stormers, Pollard's overseas. For me, I think Jordan Hendrickse has a chance to play, but I think they should go for the 4-man in Sia Masuku, who's been playing absolutely phenomenal for the Sharks, turned the Sharks season around, and I would be quite disappointed if Sia Masuku didn't get picked at number 10 for that Wales test. It's a perfect time to test him. Yes, then we got Pollard and Lebok back for that Irish series, and then you could probably test Sia Masuku out a little bit more in the Rugby Championship. But I would love to see Sia Masuku play in that number 10 jersey against Wales. Then moving in to the centers. Luckily for us, both of our world-class centers play over in Japan, so we're going to have Damien Delende and Jesse Creel. You could argue that Jordan Hendrickse could slot in at that number 12 position. He played 12 for the Lions over the weekend, and he looked very, very good doing it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they started Jordan Hendrickse, but I'm going to go for Damien Delende at 12. 13, you can go for Jesse Creel or Lukhanyo Lukhanyo has now just picked up an injury, so we're not sure whether he's going to be fit for the test against Wales. So for me, I'm going to go for Jesse Creel. Then moving over into the back 3. Luckily, a lot of our very, very good wingers play either in Japan or for the Sharks or the Lions. So number 11, obviously we don't have Kanan Moody, we don't have Kirkley Orense, we don't have any of those guys. But number 11, Cheslin Colby will have that jersey for the next couple of years. Another suggestion that could potentially go into that number 11 jersey is Edwil van der Merwe, who plays for the Lions, who's been having a great season. But I think they'll go for Cheslin Colby just because Colby can cover wing, can cover 15, can play scrum off, so it provides a little bit of utility. 14, normally would be Kirkley Orense. Obviously, he can't play because he plays for the Bulls. So then you can either go for Ethan Hooker, who's been quite impressive at the Sharks, or you can go for Makazole Mpimpi. I wouldn't be surprised if they give Ethan Hooker a debut on the wing there, but for me, I'm going to go Makazole Mpimpi on the wing. Then 15, another very highly discussed position because there's just so many people on the fringe at the moment. Now, obviously, we're not going to have Willie Leroux. Damien Willemse is now injured, but he also plays for the Stormers. Warwick Gelant plays for the Stormers. So only 2 real options is Kieran Horn and Apalele Fassi. For me, I'm going to go with Kieran Horn, and I'll tell you why a little bit once I roll through the bench, but I'm going to go Kieran Horn, who's been having a phenomenal season. I think he will just gel very, very well with Sinelo Nohamba at number 9. He'll probably take quite a lot of first receiver ball off Sinelo Nohamba, and then if Jordan Hendrickse comes on later, then they know each other quite well, and it's just going to help that team to gel a little bit more. Then moving on into the bench. Now, this is going to be a bit of a discussion. What split should we go for? 5-3, 6-2, 7-1? For me, I think the best point of call is to go for a 5-3 split, just because our forwards are lacking a little bit of depth. And I do think we should try out a couple more combinations in the back line. So I'm not going to take too long on the bench, but replacement hooker, Bongi Manambe, Obviously, him and Malcolm Marx are interchangeable. I don't really care who starts, who's on the bench. They're both very, very good players. Number 17, I've gone for Machunu, who plays his rugby for the Sharks. He's been added to the alignment camp, and I think he's had somewhat of a breakout season, so it would be nice to give him a go. Then the other prop, Rassie Erasmus, did add Sampie Swiggers to the alignment camp, and I do think this would be the perfect opportunity to give him a go. We also lack a lot of depth in that prop position when you take away the Bulls, when you take away the Stormers, when you take away the overseas players. So for me, I'm going to put Sampie Swiggers on the bench, give him a debut and see what he's all about. Now, for the final two positions on the bomb squad or on the bench, it's not really a bomb squad if it's a 5-3 split, but you got to remember that Pieter-Steph du Toit, who's starting, can move into the locks. So I haven't included any locks in this 5-3 split. I've gone for Lucy's, and my Lucy's are Vincent Sachuka, who I think has been having a phenomenal season for the Sharks and definitely deserves a go, as well as Frankie Horn, captain of the Lions, probably also deserves a go. So that will give us a little bit of versatility and agility with that forward pack. And if we do have problems in the lock position, then Pieter-Steph du Toit can move in there. I'm also pretty sure Frankie Horn can play lock. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he can. Then moving into the backs, I have put Faf de Klerk on the bench. I think just to give him a 10-15 minute run towards the end of the game, just so that he's ready for that Island series. 22, I've gone for Jordan Hendricks, so who can come on at 10, who can come on at 12, who can come on at 15, gives us that nice utility in the backline. And then 23, I would either go for Fussy or Grant Williams. I'm leaning more towards Apelele Fussy. I just think he's had a very, very good season and deserves a shot. He also provides a lot of utility on the bench. So that is my 23 to take on Wales with all the restrictions possible. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Leave this video a like and absolutely mur that subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take it easy. Peace.